Joining us today on Breaking Points Beyond the Headlines is Larry Sharpe. He was the Libertarian nominee for governor of New York back in 2018. He is currently the director of American Values 2024, the super PAC supporting RFK Jr.'s presidential campaign. And also, he is the host of The Sharpe Way with Larry Sharpe. Larry, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Lots today that I want to pick your brain about. So maybe let's start local. Let's start with maybe Eric Adams and all the stuff that's going on with his bribery and fraud charges. For those of you sort of under a rock, the stuff that he's dealing with, alleging to have accepted illegal gifts from Turkey, from maybe potentially Turkish citizens, as well as government officials in exchange for some favors. We've seen a lot of, just in this past week, a lot of developments there around resignations from people in his administration, deputy mayor, New York Police Department's the commissioner, and also
fire department people. They're all bailing. Yes, they're all bailing. They don't want to be around this because they know something bad's going to happen, right? That's the issue. When it comes to New York politics, people don't actually get this, but it is very murky and vague. That's the problem. Things that are illegal in New York City are not legal federally. For example, people don't know this, but in New York City, you can be a political consultant and be an elected official. That's legal. Happens all the time. So literally, Bloomberg did it, right? You can do it. So I could be elected official in New York City and still be a consultant making political deals. That is legal in New York City. That's absolutely illegal federally.
That's what I'm wondering, because I don't think all this is necessarily super unique. So I'm wondering, I guess, especially considering the amount of money our politicians get from abroad all over, including, namely Israel. That's a big one. So
100%.
I think they decided to go after Adams right now.
Well, there's the next piece, right? What Adams did, supposedly, allegedly, is he assisted in getting construction built faster, right? That's an issue in New York City. New York City is so bad that we literally have a group of people called Expeditors. These are people who legally you can pay them and they will move your stuff through the system faster. You might go, Larry, that sounds insanely unfair. Yes. And the way things get done in New York, it is legal, completely okay. So if I know people at the Department of Buildings, you can pay me and I can get your stuff done faster. Again, obviously seems legal. The norm in New York City, they're actually called expeditors. People make a living doing this through all types of things. The bureaucracy in New York State is terrible. The bureaucracy in New York City is worse. So it creates an environment of expeditors. So doing this kind of work is normal. And again, he used to be a borough president, Eric Adams, that is, which that's all you do is expedite stuff. There's no actual power in that. So that's what he does normally. He's accustomed to that. They all do it. If you look back at all the people in New York State who've been arrested or charged, they never deny the charges. They don't say they didn't do it. They never say that. What they say is, no, of course we did it. We had to do it. It's the way it works. You can't get anything done if you don't do it. That's what they always say, and they think that will defend them. It never does, which is why it's usually feds who step in, because things that are legal locally are not legal federally. And you might say, well, wait a minute, how did they do that, Larry? It doesn't make any sense. Well, in the case of Eric Adams, he was dumb enough to fly overseas, automatically federal, right? That was, he screwed himself with that. When he was messing around in Brooklyn, hard to get him, right? Hard to get him. It's all local stuff, hard to get him. Once you start messing with foreign nationals, now you're in trouble. But they use the key phrase. You'll notice this phrase if the feds have to step in, and that phrase is wire fraud. Wire fraud's not really a crime. It is a crime legally, but it isn't. It just means you did something that might have crossed state lines. They use that so the feds can actually get you. Otherwise, your crime isn't federal. So that's why they call it wire fraud. So the issue is, you're exactly right. It is more nuanced within the city and the corrupt city and state. But when it comes to federal, it's not. And the errors that he made, without question, are twofold. One, there's a second thing that's bad in New York City and New York State, and that's nepotism. We do it naturally. It happens all the time. We give our friends jobs. We give our family members jobs. So did Eric Adams. He gave his sister a job. That's what happens. But here's what I'll give Eric Adams, is when the press confronted him and said, look, you're giving like your brother and sister jobs. He went, yeah, we all do it. Why are you mad at me? And the press went, yeah, you're kind of right. Okay, yeah. And they walked away. That went away. Like, people didn't pay attention. But what he didn't do well is he didn't give people in power jobs. That was his error, right? Because most people in New York State who are good at corruption, and most of the politicians are very good at corruption, they make sure that they give powerful people jobs so that those powerful people are reliant upon them, and then they can protect them when bad things happen, right? That's what they usually do. Cuomo was good at that. Kathy Hochul was amazing at that, right? That's our current governor. Eric Adams was not. Eric Adams played small ball, and that's why he's in trouble. That's why he's easy to attack, easy to put under, and that's one of the reasons why they targeted him.
Interesting. So then what would be sort of the motivations to target him at this stage with an election looming? Is there something that the Democrats can benefit from his indictment?
Several things. Number one, they can virtue signal. They can say, look, we care about corruption. See? And they'll put this guy away. And meanwhile, the rest of the system's utterly corrupt. But they'll just go, oh, see, we put this guy away. See that? And we don't even care if he's black or a cop. We don't care. We'll get him anyway. See? We don't care. So it's a great thing for Democrats in general. Kathy Hochul will do very well with this. And of course, he was fighting against the migrant crisis. And in New York State, people will wonder, why does everybody want migrants in New York State? Because there is literally a migrant industrial complex here, right? The hotel industry, the credit card industry, they are making a killing off federal funds here. They are making a lot of money. FEMA funds are just rocking and rolling. They're making a lot of money off of this. There's actually an industrial complex here. There was, still kind of is, a homeless industrial complex, but homeless industrial complex is state money. And the state can't just print, right? The state actually has to go into debt and hope that Uncle Joe writes them checks. Well, Uncle Joe is not going to be in office after January, so those checks may not come. So what do? We shift into the migrant industrial complex. They are literally taking people who are New Yorkers, why I'm so mad, homeless people in New York, throwing them out of hotels and putting migrants in them. Why? More money, guaranteed money. It becomes a migrant industrial complex. Not just that, if you look around New York City, you'll see a lot of storefronts, they're closed. Well, how are they making money? Well, there are migrants living inside there, paying off the books. They're making money. Again, same idea, right? That's how the black market works. There's a migrant industrial complex in my city. That's why you might say, well, why would they want it? Because of that. Eric Adams actually, being a former cop, does not like this. And he's been openly against it. He's got to go.
Interesting. So what is his, if you could read the tea leaves a little bit, what is his relationship, with Kathy Hochul? Because I know she can definitely just remove him straight up from office. So what do you think will happen?
It actually isn't easy for her to remove him. She can, but it's not easy. She'd have to use a lot of political capital to remove him. She could do it, but it will take a lot to do so. Why bother? Why bother? The Fed's doing it for you. Why would you bother spending any political capital where you can just stand out, which is what Kathy Hochul does very well. She'll go, I'm going to look at the situation. She'll dodge and whatever. And the reality of it is Eric Adams knows, again, he's a former cop. He knows how this works. He will put together the strongest defense he can. He will try to gather as many donors as he can to pay for everything he possibly pay for so that he can have a strong defense, hoping that the feds will see this will be a tough case. The feds never want to lose, ever. They never want to lose. They want a conviction. So if they think they have a chance of losing, they'll make a deal with him. If they think they have no chance of losing, they'll just punish him. And they'll just give him a horrible punishment. But the thing is, he may get an actual deal. If he does a good job, he'll get a deal. The deal will be something like he'll step down or he won't run again or something like that. They'll do something like give him 3 years probation or something like that. They really don't want to put a cop in jail. They'd rather not put a cop in jail if they don't have to, right? So they'll give him 3 years probation. They'll swing the flag. Yes, we won. We've stopped corruption. See, corruption is over. They'll say that. They'll have a nice thing. They'll do that whole thing. Kathy Hochul will say, yes, New Yorkers have solved the corruption problem. They'll do a bunch of those things. Everyone will claim victory. And Adams will either get his charges dropped later on like Cuomo did. Cuomo did the same thing. Cuomo made a deal also. Cuomo made a deal. Remember Cuomo? How he was in trouble? Oh, no. All charges dropped. Now he's got a book. He's on TV. Yeah, he made a deal. So Adams will maybe make a deal if they think Adams has a future. Cuomo, they still think he may have a future. That's why they'll make a deal with him. Adams may or may not. That'll be a decision. Can he convince them he has a future? Can he convince them he can still be useful? Then he may make a deal. I know it all sounds very cynical because it is. That's the reason why, because it actually is.
And to your point, it's all about his ability to maneuver the right people in the right positions for them to benefit from, right? If he's not given the right people the right positions, hasn't curried the right favors, then he may not be useful for them in the future.
100%. I wish that was not true, but you can see it in everything that happens in my state. You see it constantly. There are people who should not be in charge who are people who, should have no power, and they do. And whenever they pull back one level of that onion, there's always 45 under levels underneath that of corruption. Why? That's how you get things done in the city. Literally, the entire system is made so that everybody's a criminal. They just decide when they're going to target you. And they try to target him. They're all criminal. Every single person who's got anything done in New York City is by default a criminal. And I don't have a problem saying that because I know it's true. They know it's true. You have to break laws. You have to do things unethical, or you can't get anything done in the city. That's how it works, right? Ask Donald Trump. He said it. Trump used to get things built in the city. He used expediters every day of the week. That's all he ever used.
Yeah. Speaking of Trump, let's jump to the national level a little bit because I know you're
Oh, that was a good
well.
transition, wasn't it? I was good at that. Okay, good.
I know you're pretty well tied into the Kennedy campaign, and then I know it was just a few short months ago when the messaging from the Kennedy campaign was only Kennedy can beat Trump. Now he's joined forces with Trump, so I'm wondering if you can give us a little bit of insight on how all of that went down.
Well, to be
You don't
very
know.
forward, oh no. I'm not. What I'm going to say is I am part of the pack, so I legally cannot speak to the campaign. Hear that? Hear that, my federal agent watching me? I'm telling you, I cannot speak to the campaign. So yes, however, there are certain things that I do hear and I do know and that are public knowledge that we know. The reality of it is anyone running independent, by the time September comes, they have to make a decision. The independent situation in America is very tough, as you know. Kennedy dropped $20 million getting ballot access and still was being sued off the ballot in multiple states. He spent over $1 million just in New York State and lost that battle just in New York State. The system is meant to keep independents off the ballot, period. The press keeps independents off of the press, period. Literally, he sued Biden and judges found Biden liable for trying to keep him out of social media. Literally trying to keep him out of social media, keeping out of debates. They are kept out. So by the time September comes, you make a decision. Am I in the debates? If I'm not, okay. Am I flush with cash? If I'm not, what am I doing? What am I doing? Right? Because now it's the end and your donors start going, do I want to give you any more money? Now, the advantage is there are two parties that doesn't really matter with, and that's the Green Party and Libertarian Party. The Green Party and Libertarian Party, and I love them both, but I'm just being very forward. They're ideologues. They don't care. They're fighting to the death no matter what. They will go all the way. I guarantee you that Chase Oliver and Jill Stein go all the way to November no matter what. They would go on no money because these parties are ideological parties and they're about we're going no matter what. But other independent people, they're not ideologues. They're more realist, more pragmatic. And now here comes September. What am I going to do? Well, Bobby Kennedy Jr. had several options. Option one was just keep marching and march to oblivion. That was an option. Option two was, okay, just drop out. Just end this and drop out. And option three was join with Trump. There was no option of joining with Harris. I know people are going to say that and be very
Wasn't
clear
that
about this.
there's some leaks coming out in the press saying that he was talking to
He was not.
a
Utter
campaign.
lie. Let me tell you what was actually happening and how they spun it. What was actually happening is the Trump people, savvy as they are, were offering people in the Kennedy's team jobs. Hey, come on over, whatever we can do. Why is Bobby still running? They were, seeding him to drop out. Of course, and that's how this works. If anyone's not sure, politics is not about policy or anything. Politics is about two things: pettiness and money. That's it. It's pettiness and money. I don't want to do something because I'm mad. I'm doing something because I want a job. I got bills to pay, so I better go do something. That's how politics works all the time. That's what it really is all about. And it's the mafia. It's the mob. Any deals made mean nothing. You enforce your contracts via political leverage. If you don't have political leverage, your contracts mean nothing. You can't go to the cops. You can't go to courts because someone promised you something. Doesn't work. If you have political leverage, your contracts are enforced. If you don't, your contracts mean nothing. So they were actually calling and trying to get these guys jobs. These guys were smart. They called the Harris campaign saying, well, if Trump's offering me X, can you offer me X plus 5? Can you offer me more? The people who talked to the Harris campaign was not Bobby. Bobby never made that phone call. That never happened. And you'll find no evidence of it because it never happened. His people were, because they were trying to job shop. And they said, see, it's Bobby doing it. That's not happened. Bobby didn't even call Trump. Trump called Bobby. That was literally on video. We saw it. Bobby Kennedy did not reach out to either. Trump reached out to him. And it was right after the assassination attempt. And I believe that affected Bobby Kennedy Jr. and it affected Trump. And it made them start to think maybe this is something we could do. That's when the real talk started happening. After the assassination, when the real talk started happening. Prior to that, Bobby Kennedy was still trying to find a way to take this to the end. That's what actually happened.
So speaking of leverage, how much leverage do you think RFK Jr. actually has on the Trump campaign in terms of the promises? I know he's on the transition team. They talked a lot about reforming the FDA, big pharma, military industrial complex, et cetera, et cetera. So how much leverage does Bobby Jr. and his voter base have, in terms of political capital?
Sure. The reality is it depends on how many people vote for Bobby Kennedy Jr. Depends, right? If Trump wins this thing and it's obvious that it was Bobby who helped do it, he will have some leverage. And here's the other thing. Regardless of what RFK Jr. wants to do, there are a swath of people across America who are crazy loyal to him, just crazy loyal to him. And they will vote for him no matter what he says. He could get on his knees and beg and say, please don't vote for me. They will still vote for him. They don't care. There's a swath. My gut says over 1 million people. My gut says Bobby Kennedy Jr., no matter what he says, will still get 1 million votes, no matter what he does. I can't imagine him not. I think he still will. I think he'll still beat Jill Stein. My gut says, if I had to guess now, popular vote. I don't know who's going to win the election. Popular vote goes Harris first, Trump second. Trump may still win with the Electoral College, but I do think Harris will win popular vote. Then it will be Bobby Kennedy Jr., then Jill Stein, then Chase Oliver, then Cornel West. That's my call for the line. Hopefully, do I win something if I'm right? I don't know. But anyway, that's what I think is going to happen. And I think because of that, that will show how much power he actually has. If the MAHA movement, the Make America Healthy Again movement, if that takes on, if that becomes something, that is going to show his leverage. His leverage will be, are people still following his message? If the MAHA movement disappears after November 5th, I don't think it will. But if it does and people aren't voting for him, he'll have no leverage. He will have leverage if he has bodies who will do, because here's what will matter. And again, this may sound very cynical, but it's what I do. The Republican Party is going to want to win elections in 2025 at the local level. And again, in 2026 at the more federal and local level. Well, will Bobby Kennedy Jr. have power in that? If he will, Trump's advisors will say, keep him around. He's good. His people help us out. We can get over the hill with his guy. We can get over right over the hump with his people. And they will push Trump to keep Kennedy close and to keep him happy and to give him what he wants, because they want to use the Kennedy supporters to win their local elections, to raise money, right? All those things. The Republican Party needs to raise money specifically in blue states. In blue states, they're getting killed. The reverse in the Democratic Party, right? You see in Nebraska right now with Dan Osborne, Democrats aren't even running anybody. Utah, Democrats don't run anybody, right? Because the states are so red, they can't raise money. So how can they fix it? The MAHA movement, Bobby Kennedy Jr., is a great way to fix the Republican problems in those either purple states or blue states when it comes to raising money and winning elections, particularly locally. While Republicans aren't going to win a statewide election in California or in New York, they are going to win a lot of local elections, right? Most of the physical state is red. So local people, Republicans win often. They'll use, if they're savvy, that is, they'll use the MAHA movement and the Bobby Kennedy supporters to ensure they can win in those purple districts and red districts. If they can do that, then yes, he'll have a lot of leverage. He'll probably get what he wants, but the key is leverage.
Yeah. So how much do you think, in terms of overall third parties, in terms of overall third parties, what effect will they have on the election in terms of these key swing states like Michigan, where we're reading a lot, Kamala's hemorrhaging a lot to Jill Stein, mostly in the Arab or Muslim American community. So how much do you think the third parties will impact the actual outcome of the November general?
This will make some of your viewers unhappy, but I will say it anyway. They are going to decide it. And I cannot be happier about that. I am an absolute ideologue. I want a third party in this country like there's no tomorrow. It's why I do what I do. It's why I preach the way I preach. It's why I consult the way I consult. It's why you don't see me consulting with Republicans, Democrats, even though I could help them tremendously. I don't. I consult only with independents because I'm an ideologue. I think independent parties are the right answer. It's the way for us to move the message. And here's right now, my actual evidence of that. Bobby Kennedy Jr. ran for X months. I forgot how many months he ran. And now he's gone on the Trump train, and the Trump messaging has changed. Now people are talking about health, and they haven't before. Now people are talking about good food, and they haven't before. So it did change. Independent parties aren't going to all of a sudden tomorrow win and become president of the United States and control the Senate. That's not going to happen. I get that. But will they move the message? Will they force? If you want better Democrats and better Republicans, you need to support independent parties. Independent parties make better Democrats and better Republicans because they force them to not just go, other guy bad, which is what they all do, right? Democrats just point, well, I know I'm bad, but he's worse. Republicans, I know I'm bad, but she's worse. Independent parties change that messaging and make them actually say things and do things. So yes, they are going to affect it. And I hope they are the spoiler. And that makes some of you mad. Be mad then. I'm right. Doesn't matter. They are going to affect you. You can guarantee it. Angela McArdle, chair of the Libertarian Party, said literally, the Libertarian movement will decide who wins this election. I think she's right. Independent movements will decide. If Harris loses Michigan, it's because of Jill Stein. And good. I'm not mad at that. If Trump loses Pennsylvania, it'll be because people didn't jump on board his train. They went on RFK, or they went to Chase Oliver, or they went to Jill Stein. Good. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, as a person sort of without a party, it's hard for me to disagree with that. All right, so where can people find more of what you have to say, Larry? In terms of, very interesting stuff today. So where can people follow you?
Absolutely. av24.org is the PAC's website. You can see what we're doing there, doing all types of cool things now, coming with new policy issues, all types of stuff we're doing. So please come by and check us out there. Again, av24.org, or you can just Google Larry Sharpe. Doesn't matter. Larry Sharpe with an E. E makes it entertaining. That's why the E's there. So yes, Google Larry Sharpe with an E. I'm the most popular Larry Sharpe in the country. You'll find me on the Sharpe way. You'll find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all the things.
Is there another Larry Sharpe that we should be wary of?
There are actually three. One is like a insurance guy. One's like a realtor, but they're nowhere as popular as me. And the other, by the way, is someone who was my namesake, Larry Sharpe, the professional wrestler, believe it or not, from the 70s. He was Pretty Boy Larry Sharpe, AKA Larry Wheel. Sadly, he died in 2018, and then I took over. I became king.
Well, good for you, Larry. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Appreciate your insights, and hopefully we'll talk again soon. Appreciate you.
Have a good one.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.